In 1960, Australia was undergoing a period of post-war growth and national pride, with Sydney at the heart of its modernisation efforts. One of the most ambitious projects of the era was the construction of the Sydney Opera House, a symbol of cultural aspiration that was rapidly becoming a financial burden. To help fund the escalating costs, the New South Wales government launched a series of state-run opera house lotteries, offering substantial prizes to generate public interest and revenue. Lottery number 10, drawn on Wednesday the 1st of June 1960, awarded a grand prize of just over 3 million Australian dollars, or 100,000 Great British pounds, to Basil Thorne, whose winning ticket was number 3932. In an age when public transparency was valued more than personal privacy, lottery winners' names, photographs, and even home addresses were freely published in newspapers. Basil Thorne and his family became overnight celebrities, with the press spotlighting their windfall and confirming that the prize money would be disbursed by Thursday the 7th of July. At the time of their win, the Thorne family lived in a rented house at 79 Edward Street in Bondi, a beachside suburb of Sydney. The family included Basil, his wife Frida, their 8-year-old son Graeme, 3-year-old daughter Belinda, and their eldest daughter Cheryl, who had reportedly been placed in institutional care. The attention surrounding their sudden wealth would soon place the Thornes in an unthinkable spotlight, not just of public fascination, but of tragic consequence. Each school day, 8-year-old Graeme Thorne followed a familiar routine, walking roughly 300 metres from his home to the corner of Wellington and O'Brien Streets in Bondi. There, he would wait for a family friend, Phyllis Smith, who regularly gave him a lift to school along with her own children. On the morning of Thursday, the 7th of July, 1960, exactly 5 weeks after his family's lottery win, Graeme left home around 8:30 a.m. as usual. But when Phyllis arrived 10 minutes later, he was nowhere to be found. Concerned, she drove to the Thorne residence to check if plans had changed. Frida Thorne, Graeme's mother, was caught off guard. Graeme had indeed left for school, and she assumed he may have gotten a ride with someone else or made his own way to class. Phyllis proceeded to the Scots College in Bellevue Hill to confirm his arrival, but upon learning Graeme hadn't shown up, she returned immediately. Growing alarmed, Frida contacted the police, and within hours, the disappearance of Graeme Thorne set off what would become one of Australia's most chilling and historic criminal investigations. At 9:40 a.m, roughly an hour after Graeme had left home for school, a phone call came through to the Thorne residence. The caller was a man with a distinct foreign accent. By that time, Sergeant Larry O'Shea from Bondi Police had already arrived at the house around 9:30 a.m. and was present when the call came in. Taking the receiver from Frida Thorne, O'Shea pretended to be Graeme's father, Basil, who was away on a business trip in Kempsey. The voice on the line made a chilling demand. Quote, "I have your boy. I want £25,000 before 5 o'clock this afternoon. I'm not fooling. If I don't get the money before 5 o'clock, I'll feed the boy to the sharks." Unaware that the family had recently won a major lottery prize, Sergeant O'Shea responded hesitantly, unsure how such a large amount could be raised in time. The caller then promised to ring back at 5 p.m. with more details, and abruptly ended the conversation. Later that night, at 9:47 p.m, the kidnapper phoned again. This time, another police officer, also posing as Graeme's father, answered the call. The officer attempted to prolong the conversation to allow time for a trace. The caller began giving instructions, stating that the ransom money should be placed in 2 paper bags, but suddenly ended the call without providing a drop-off location or further directions. On the day of Graeme Thorne's abduction, police began an extensive search around his Bondi home. That evening, the case was made public through a televised appeal by Police Commissioner Colin Delaney and Graeme's emotional father, Basil. The next day, the investigation shifted to Sydney's northern suburbs after Graeme's school bag was found near Seaforth. A witness reported seeing a boy matching Graeme's description in a dark Dodge-style car with suspicious plates, along with 2 men and a woman. The vehicle was later spotted by police, but fled the scene. Days later, more of Graeme's belongings were recovered nearby, and rewards totalling £20,000 were offered. New South Wales Police launched an unprecedented response to Graeme's presumed kidnapping, cancelling all police leave statewide and initiating what would become the largest manhunt Australia had ever seen. Authorities quickly offered a £5,000 reward for information, with an additional £15,000 contributed by 2 major newspapers, underscoring the urgency and public investment in the case. As the search intensified, the emotional turmoil of Graeme's parents unfolded publicly, gripping the entire country. Their anguish and desperation were covered extensively by newspapers, radio broadcasts, and television bulletins. The nation watched with growing concern, and for countless Australian families, particularly parents, the Thornes' ordeal struck a deeply personal chord, turning the case into a shared national heartbreak. During the harrowing weeks following Graeme's abduction, the Thorne family endured not only overwhelming grief and uncertainty, but also a barrage of cruel hoaxes. Impostors posing as both the kidnapper and Graeme himself made malicious phone calls, compounding the emotional distress. A breakthrough came when Graeme's school satchel, clearly marked with his name, was discarded near a roadside off the Wakehurst Parkway, an ominous sign that hopes of a safe return were fading. Then, on Tuesday, the 16th of August, nearly 6 weeks after he vanished, 3 schoolboys made a grim discovery. In a patch of overgrown, vacant land on Grandview Grove in Seaforth, just 1.5 kilometres, or just short of a mile from where the bag was found, they uncovered Graeme's body. He was found wrapped in a blue tartan picnic blanket, concealed in a small ledge on vacant land. His hands were bound with string, and a scarf had been used as a gag. According to the Canberra Times, the blanket had been lying at the site for some time. In fact, 2 local children had noticed it earlier, but it wasn't until they mentioned it to their parents around 7 p.m. that the grim discovery was finally reported. The day after Graeme's body was discovered, his father, Basil, formally identified him at the city morgue. Forensic analysis of soil and debris on the body and the blanket revealed microscopic fragments of pink limestone mortar, an unusual material that strongly suggested the body had been hidden beneath a house before being moved. These clues, along with other evidence, enabled police to narrow their search to a residence featuring a blue car, pink mortar in its construction, and 2 cypress trees in the yard. Forensic science, still relatively new to policing at the time, played a crucial role in advancing the investigation towards identifying the killer. Leads pointed to a foreign man seen loitering near the Thorne home and asking suspicious questions. An iridescent blue 1955 Ford Custom Line was also spotted near Graeme's pickup point. Investigators combed through thousands of similar vehicles, eventually questioning a man named Stephen Leslie Bradley, who denied being in the area. A crucial breakthrough came when a local postman reported a property in Clontarf that matched the forensic profile, featuring the distinctive elements identified by investigators. This tip led police directly to the home of the killer. He was named as Hungarian immigrant Stephen Leslie Bradley, born as Istvan Baranyai. When word of the Thorne's family lottery win spread publicly, Stephen Bradley devised a plan to kidnap their son for ransom. He began by surveilling their home at 79 Edward Street, Bondi, studying their routine. Knowing he'd need their phone number to make the ransom demand, Bradley visited the residence, posing as a private investigator. When he knocked on the door and inquired about the number, Frida Thorne, though puzzled since the phone hadn't yet been installed, confirmed it. With that, Bradley had everything he needed to proceed. On a seemingly ordinary Thursday morning, Bradley, himself a father of 3, drove to Bondi. He spotted 8-year-old Graeme, dressed in his grey school uniform and cap, walking down Wellington Street on his way to the corner store to buy a snack before school. Bradley parked in the spot where Phyllis Smith, the family friend who usually gave Graeme a lift, would typically pull in. Posing as a trusted adult, he persuaded the boy to get into his car, offering him a ride to school. Graeme got in without resistance. Bradley then drove to nearby Centennial Park, where he restrained the child, tying his limbs with twine, gagging him with a scarf, and wrapping him in a blue tartan picnic blanket. He placed the boy in the car boot and continued on to his home on the north side of Sydney, crossing Middle Harbour. Before making the ransom call, he parked near a public phone box by the Spit Bridge. At 9:40 a.m, he called the Thorne residence and issued his demand, £25,000 by 5 p.m. that day. After the call, Bradley discovered Graeme had died. Despite this, he proceeded to make a second call later that night, continuing the deception even after the boy's death. The picnic blanket he used would later become a key piece of forensic evidence in identifying him. The killer was ultimately identified through a single strand of dog hair found on the blue picnic blanket. Forensic testing revealed it belonged to a Pekingese, the same breed owned by Stephen Bradley. This crucial clue, combined with Frida Thorne's recognition of Bradley as the man who had visited their home pretending to be a private investigator, confirmed his involvement. By the time police connected the evidence, Bradley had already fled Australia with his wife and children aboard the P&O liner Himalaya. However, his escape was short-lived. He was apprehended in October 1960 after disembarking in Colombo, Sri Lanka. 34-year-old Stephen Leslie Bradley was extradited back to Sydney to face charges for the murder of Graeme Thorne. During the intense 9-day trial, details of Bradley's complicated past emerged. He arrived in Melbourne aboard the Skaugum in March 1950. A divorcee since 1948, Bradley remarried in 1952 and lived with his second wife, Eva Maria Laszlo, in Melbourne until her tragic death in a car accident in 1955. In August of 1956, he legally changed his name to Stephen Leslie Bradley. 2 years later, in 1958, he married a third time to Magda Whitman, a divorcee with 2 children. Struggling to support his growing family, Bradley took on various jobs as their savings dwindled. Inspired possibly by the high-profile Peugeot kidnapping case in Paris earlier that year, Bradley planned and carried out the abduction of Graeme. While he admitted to kidnapping, he pleaded not guilty to murder, claiming that Graeme had accidentally suffocated in the car boot. Forensic experts disproved this, demonstrating that the boot was ventilated and contained breathable air for hours. Bradley's wife was also called to testify from London, but no evidence implicated her in the crime. Dr. John Lang, a medical officer, reported that the fracture, located in the thickest part of Graeme's skull, would have taken, quote, considerable force to cause such an injury. When questioned by Sergeant Good, assisting the coroner, Dr. Lang confirmed that Graeme's body showed no signs of illness and that his death was undoubtedly violent. Dr. Lang noted that the body was fully clothed, except for a missing shoe on the right foot. A scarf was tied tightly around the neck, with the knot positioned beneath the right ear. The ankles were bound together with string. He observed abrasions on the right side of the neck and a wound at the back of the head. Beneath this, there was a fracture on the rear of the skull, accompanied by bruising on the left side of the scalp. Additionally, the lungs and airways displayed scattered surface hemorrhages. Dr. Lane confirmed that the cranial fracture occurred before death. He concluded that the cause of death was either the skull fracture, asphyxiation, or a combination of both. After a highly publicised trial, Bradley was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment, the harshest penalty under New South Wales law at the time. The jury took less than 3.5 hours to reach the verdict. His appeal to the Court of Criminal Appeal was unanimously dismissed in May of 1961, confirming the sentence. He died of a heart attack at Goulburn Prison at the age of 42. Graeme Thorne was laid to rest at Macquarie Park Cemetery, while his family relocated to Rose Bay. However, reports indicated that the devastating loss left lasting scars, and the family struggled to find peace in the years that followed. Basil Thorne passed away in December of 1978, and Frida Thorne lived until 2012, reaching the age of 86. Throughout their lives, both parents carried the memory of their son Graeme with profound love and enduring sorrow, keeping him ever close to their hearts and thoughts despite the passage of time.